The house smelled of roasted butter, sage, and cinnamon pies when I walked in carrying a heavy casserole dish I had made with my trembling hands. Thanksgiving had always been my holiday. The one day I poured my heart into cooking, decorating, and making sure everyone had a place to feel at home. But this year, I was merely a guest in my own tradition. My daughter, Amanda, insisted she hosted her oversized suburban house, the kind with marble counters and chandeliers she liked to show off as proof she was better than everyone else, especially me. As soon as I stepped into her kitchen, I could feel her eyes on me, sharp, cold, and judgmental. "Oh, Mom," she drawled, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Did you really think anyone wanted your old-fashioned casserole? We have real food now, not whatever that is." Laughter rippled around the table, led by her husband and her friends, who looked at me like I was an intruder. My face flushed, but I swallowed my words and simply placed the dish on the counter. I had lived long enough to know when a storm was brewing, and Amanda never wasted a chance to humiliate me in front of others. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. Dinner began, and I sat quietly at the end of the long oak table, watching my daughter command the room. She carved the golden turkey, her knife glinting under the chandelier lights, her smile wide as she poured glasses of expensive wine for everyone but me. When the laughter got louder, she raised her glass and with that cruel spark in her eyes said, "Let's give thanks tonight for everything we don't need anymore." Like dry, old things that should have been carved out years ago. She looked right at me, her voice sharp as a knife. "You're the turkey, Mom. Old, dry, and better off carved out." The room went silent for a moment, and then her friends burst into hysterics. My fork shook in my hand, but I forced myself to chew through the lump in my throat. Amanda smirked, proud of her cruelty, proud to cut me out of the family as if I were nothing but gristle on the bone. I looked around the table for someone, anyone, to defend me, but all I saw were averted eyes and tight lips. My son-in-law gave a nervous chuckle. Her children stared at their plates, and Amanda only leaned back, victorious. I excused myself quietly, standing up with dignity, though my legs trembled beneath me. I left the casserole untouched on the counter, the food I had poured my last bit of strength into making. Behind me, I heard Amanda whisper to her husband, just loud enough for me to hear, "One day she'll realize she was only ever a burden." They laughed. That night, while the laughter of their party echoed in the house, I sat alone in my small apartment, staring at the faded photographs of the Thanksgivings I used to host. My heart ached, but not just with sadness. There was something else growing inside me, something sharper. Amanda thought she had carved me out of her life like an old turkey, but what she didn't know was that I had carved something much deeper, something she depended on more than she could ever imagine. She believed she had taken everything from me. She had no idea how much of her world was built on the very foundation of what I still controlled. And before the sun rose again, she would learn exactly who held the carving knife over the family finances. That night, I barely slept, my body still stiff from sitting hunched over on the small sofa, listening to Amanda's laughter echo in my head. "You're the turkey, old, dry, and better off carved out?" The words weren't just cruel. They were deliberate, sharpened to pierce me in the one place she thought I had no defense left. My age, my dignity, my worth. But Amanda had forgotten something. For years, while she flaunted her new house and her jewelry and her picture-perfect life on social media, she depended on something she pretended wasn't mine. The truth was, Amanda had built her little empire on money I controlled. Decades ago, after her father passed, I managed our modest savings carefully. I invested, I paid down property, and when Amanda begged for a small loan to buy her first house, I gave it, quietly, without strings. I never told her that the deed to the house was still legally under my name, tied to the family trust I managed. She had lived all these years thinking she was the queen of her castle, when really, she was a tenant in a home that still answered to me. As I sat in the dark, I opened the old mahogany lockbox I kept tucked beneath my bed. Inside were folders, documents, and bank slips I had guarded for years. Amanda thought I was old and useless, but she never realized that her bank accounts, her mortgage, even her children's college funds all traced back to me. I had been the silent hand behind her comfort, the invisible shield keeping her from drowning in her own debts. She mocked me, carved me out like dry meat, but without me, she had no bone to stand on. The next morning, Amanda called, her voice sharp and demanding. "Mom, I need you to cover the kids' tuition again. The payment deadline is tomorrow, and I don't want their scholarships to lapse. You do have some money left, right?" Her words stung not because of the demand, but because of the casual way she spoke, as if I existed only to serve her convenience. I kept my voice calm. "I'll think about it." The silence on the other end told me she wasn't used to hearing hesitation from me. All day, I prepared quietly. I walked down to the bank with steady steps, my cane clicking against the tile floor. I withdrew the necessary papers, signed what needed to be signed, and moved accounts in silence. No one at the bank knew that these documents were more than signatures. They were a carving knife sharper than any Amanda had waved at me across her dining table. That evening, when Amanda drove up in her gleaming SUV, she walked into my small apartment without even knocking. "Well, did you transfer the money? The kids can't miss their tuition." Her tone was more command than question, her eyes darting around my humble home with disdain. I looked at her, really looked at her, this woman I had raised, who now saw me as disposable, a turkey past its use. I said nothing. I simply slid the folder across the table. Inside were copies of the house deed, the trust details, and the accounts she had always assumed were hers. Amanda's smile faltered as she flipped through the pages. Her face drained of color when she realized the truth. Every safety net she thought belonged to her was still under my control. You can't be serious," she stammered, her voice rising. "This house, this money, you said—" I cut her off. My voice was low, steady, sharper than she'd ever heard it. "I never said you owned anything, Amanda. You mocked me at your table, carved me out of your life like I was nothing. But while you laughed, I held the knife over everything you rely on. You thought you carved me? No, Amanda. I carved you." Her eyes widened, her lips trembling as the weight of it sank in. For the first time in years, Amanda was silent, powerless, begging with her eyes for me not to pull the final thread. And that was only the beginning of what she would learn. 2 days after Amanda's pale face crumpled over the papers I laid on her table, she returned, this time without her confident strut or her mocking smile. She stood at my doorway, drenched in the same November rain that had once soaked my coat when she sent me home like an unwanted guest. Her mascara had run down her cheeks. Her hands were trembling as she clutched her phone. "Mom, please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "They froze the accounts. The tuition office is calling. The bank says the house is not mine. I don't know what to do. Please, just let me in. I need help." I didn't move. I looked at the daughter who once called me a turkey, better off carved out of the family picture, and now she stood begging at the door of the woman she had carved from her life. "You told me I wasn't needed," I said slowly, my voice like cold steel. "So I believed you. I carved myself out, Amanda, and I carved out every safety net you leaned on." Her knees buckled as she dropped onto the wet concrete. "Mom, I'm sorry. Please, I didn't mean it. I don't know why I said it. Please don't do this. The kids—" I bent down, my hand firm on the doorframe. "The kids will always be fine. I'll make sure they never pay for your cruelty. But you, Amanda, you will learn. You wanted me out of your life, and now you get what you wanted. No shelter, no safety, no inheritance of comfort. You mocked me as useless, but you'll live to see how much of your life was carved by my hands." Her sobs echoed in the rain, desperate and hollow, but I did not open the door. That night, the house light stayed dark behind her, and for the first time, Amanda faced the storm without the umbrella I had always held over her head. The next morning, I sat quietly at my kitchen table sipping my tea. Outside, Amanda was gone. She had chosen to leave the one shelter she once mocked, and for the first time in years I felt carved free, not by her cruelty, but by my choice to finally let her face her own hunger. It was her turn to beg for shelter, her turn to understand who had been the foundation all along, and I knew, deep inside, she would never look at me, or herself, the same way again. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.